Men speak of trust as if it were a virtue without limit. They are wrong. Trust is a currency, and like gold, to spend it recklessly is to invite ruin. In this world, the man who trusts without measure will not merely be betrayed, he will be destroyed. In the quiet corridors of power, betrayal is not an accident. It is a strategy. I have seen the loyal fed to the wolves, not because they were weak in strength, but because they were weak in suspicion. The naive believe that trust unites men. The wise know it binds you in chains for others to break at will. In politics, in war, and in the hidden wars of the heart, the one who trusts too deeply becomes an easy mark for those who wait in shadows. This is not a lesson in kindness. It is a lesson in survival. And survival demands that you master betrayal before betrayal masters you. Trust as leverage, not faith trust, a word dressed in virtue, but armed with a blade. You have been taught since childhood to trust, as if it were a moral badge, a proof of goodness. But morality does not protect you in the court of power. In that arena, trust is not sacred. It is a transaction, and every transaction demands something in return. Ask yourself when you give your trust, what do you receive? If your answer is nothing but the comfort of believing, you are already at a loss. The powerful do not give trust freely. They lend it like a usurer lends coin. And they do so at interest. Consider the Roman Senate. Even among allies, trust was a weapon. Julius Caesar did not march across the Rubicon because he believed in the loyalty of his peers. He acted precisely because he knew their loyalty could be bought, sold, and broken. He trusted only in the strength of his legions and the certainty of his own will. Everything else was negotiable. The naive imagine that trust is built on honor. The wise know it is built on dependency. You trust the bridge because it must hold your weight, but people are not bridges, they are storms. Their direction changes with the winds of profit, fear, and desire. Here is the first rule: never trust a man who has nothing to lose by betraying you. And the second, never trust a man who has too much to gain by betraying you. In politics, in business, even in the intimacy of personal life, the one who views trust as a gift will be eaten alive by the one who sees it as leverage. The predator measures trust the way a general measures terrain. What can it be used for? Where is the high ground? Where is the ambush? Think of the Borgia court. Pope Alexander VI, a master of intrigue, did not ask for blind loyalty. He created situations where loyalty was the most profitable choice. If a duke served his interests, it was not because the duke's heart was pure. It was because betrayal would cost him more than obedience. That is how trust becomes leverage. You must learn to engineer such conditions yourself. When you trust someone, you do not simply hand them a key. You design the lock so that the key is only valuable while it stays in your possession. You make their advantage tied to your survival. You bind their fortune to yours so tightly that cutting you loose would mean sinking with you. And yet even here you must not relax. For dependency can shift, new alliances form, old debts expire. A man who needs you today may have no need of you tomorrow. Do you know why so many rulers fall at the height of their glory? It is because they mistake accumulated loyalty for permanent loyalty. They forget that loyalty is a reflection of power, not its source. When your power fades, so too will the trust you once commanded. Psychology confirms this. People respond to incentives, not ideals. The human mind dresses itself, interest in the clothing of principle, but when the cost of keeping faith outweighs the benefit, the principle evaporates. Even the most loyal servant will betray if betrayal becomes the safer choice. So, what is the practical application? First, assess every trust you give as you would assess a risky investment. Ask, if this person turned against me tomorrow, what damage could they do, and how would I recover? If the answer is, I would be ruined, you have already surrendered too much. Second, never rely on one pillar of trust when you can build 3. Diversify your dependencies so no single betrayal can topple you. This is how empires withstand conspiracies. They do not balance on one ally, one general, or one banker. Third, make your trust visible but limited. Let others believe they have your confidence. It feeds their pride and binds them closer, but always keep the final measure of power in your own hands. The most dangerous trust is the trust they think they have won, and perhaps most important of all, know when to withdraw it. Trust should never be permanent. Like a loan, it must be reviewed, re-evaluated, and if necessary, revoked before it becomes a weapon in the wrong hands. History's greatest betrayals were not born in moments of sudden treachery, but in years of overextended trust. Remember, you do not survive by trusting the world. You survive by making the world trust you, and keeping them dependent on your favor. For in this game, the one who holds trust as leverage becomes the master, and the one who holds it as faith becomes the prey. Now, you may think this is enough to guard yourself, that if you give trust sparingly, you are safe. But there is a deeper danger, one far more insidious than misplaced trust. It is the predator's patience. And that is where we go next. The predator's patience. Betrayal rarely arrives with a shout. It comes with a smile and the passing of time. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who strikes immediately, but the one who waits. Patient, quiet, weaving themselves into your confidence until you cannot imagine them as a threat. Do you think wolves hunt only by chasing? No. The clever wolf walks beside the herd until the sheep forget it has teeth. History remembers Brutus as the man who plunged the knife into Caesar's flesh. But the true story is darker. Brutus did not suddenly turn on his leader. He was a trusted ally for years, enjoying the privileges of closeness. He learned Caesar's strengths, his blind spots, his habits. When the day came, he did not need to fight for the kill. He simply stepped forward when Caesar was unguarded. This is the predator's patience. They do not rush, because speed exposes intention. They wait until you have disarmed yourself, until you have told them what you fear, what you desire, and what you cannot live without. They will nod at your victories, grieve in your defeats, and, if they are truly skilled, be the first to comfort you when others abandon you. Why? Because the more you trust them, the less you watch them. Consider the court of France under Louis XI, the Spider King. He spun webs of alliances, drawing nobles close with promises and favors. Many of those nobles thought they had captured the king's affection. But Louis knew how to wait. Those who seemed loyal were allowed to grow comfortable, and in comfort, they exposed their true ambitions. When their designs finally revealed themselves, he struck, not with rage, but with precision, as if he had been preparing for years. This is how patient predators win, by letting their prey prepare their own downfall. In psychology, this is called the long con. The con artist does not rush to steal from you. First, they study you. They learn your patterns. They give you small wins, small validations, until you believe you are in control. And when the moment comes, you give them everything they want, willingly. You must train yourself to see this pattern. When someone appears to be without flaw, question it. When someone has never opposed you, be suspicious. And when someone seems to agree with you on every matter, know that you are not speaking to a friend, but to a mirror designed to seduce your confidence. Patience is the rarest weapon in the arsenal of the ambitious because it requires discipline. Most people cannot wait, they rush to seize advantage. The predator who can wait is the one you should fear most, because they have learned to starve their hunger until the meal is certain. Do you know the tragedy of complacency? It is that you never see it happening. One day, you are alert, guarding your position. The next, you are relaxed, certain of your allies. And then, without warning, you are undone. Not because they suddenly turned against you, but because they have always been waiting for the right moment. The slow betrayal is more dangerous than the sudden one, because it corrupts from within. You lose not just your position, but your clarity. You begin to doubt everyone, including yourself. And that is the true victory of the patient predator, not your death, but your confusion. So, how do you guard against them? First, never believe that time alone proves loyalty. A long history with someone means only that they have had a long time to prepare. Second, create conditions where anyone close to you must constantly earn their place. Comfort breeds boldness, and boldness feeds betrayal. Keep even your allies in a state of mild uncertainty, enough to keep them careful, but not enough to make them desperate. Third, control the information they receive. A predator cannot strike with precision if they do not know where you are exposed. Give them fragments, never the whole design. Above all, remember this: the moment you stop evaluating someone is the moment you invite them to sharpen the knife. The predator's patience is not measured in days or months. It is measured in opportunities. They do not count time, they count vulnerabilities. And when your guard is down, when the noise of the world has lulled you to sleep, they will take everything from you, and you will wonder how you never saw it coming. But there is a way to detect the predator before they pounce. It lies in uncovering the illusion of mutual loyalty, and that will be the next lesson. The illusion of mutual loyalty. Loyalty is the most fragile currency in the realm of power. It shines brightly when fortunes align and vanishes the moment they do not. You may think loyalty is forged in shared struggle, in victories and defeats endured side by side. That is the story told to soldiers, lovers, and business partners alike. But in truth, loyalty is not a chain of steel. It is a thread of silk, strong enough to hold until the pull of advantage snaps it without warning. Ask yourself, when someone stands beside you, are they bound by devotion or by convenience? History answers this with cruelty. Look to the shifting alliances of the Italian city-states. Florence, Venice, and Milan could be sworn allies in the spring and sworn enemies by the winter. Not because their leaders were faithless by nature, but because a better bargain had appeared. The treaty mattered only while it served the interest of both sides. Once it did not, it was discarded like a worn cloak. Do you think yourself immune because your alliances are personal, because they are built on affection, gratitude, or blood? Then remember Richard III of England, even his closest supporters. Men raised to power through his favor, abandoned him when Henry Tudor's star began to rise. They did not do this because they suddenly hated Richard. They did it because loyalty to him was no longer the safer investment. This is the cold truth. It is conditional, always. Psychology tells us why. The human mind is wired for survival and advantage. We disguise this instinct under noble words, but deep within we are accountants of gain and loss. Loyalty lasts only as long as it offers a return. When it becomes a liability, it dissolves, sometimes overnight. And yet, the illusion of mutual loyalty is one of the most intoxicating traps you will ever fall into. It works like this: you believe that because you have risked yourself for someone, they will risk themselves for you. You imagine a perfect symmetry, a balance of sacrifice. This belief is comforting. It allows you to sleep without fear. But it is almost always false. Consider the fate of the Byzantine general Belisarius. He served Emperor Justinian with brilliance, winning wars that expanded the empire's reach. In return, he believed the emperor's loyalty to him was unshakable. Yet, when court rivals whispered doubts into Justinian's ear, Belisarius was stripped of his command and even accused of treason. Years of service brought him no protection. Why? Because Justinian's loyalty to Belisarius ended the moment his continued power seemed more dangerous than useful. The illusion blinds you because it is mutual. You feel loyal to them, and so you assume they feel the same toward you. But assumption is the enemy of clarity. If you want to survive in the court of power, whether that court is a palace, a boardroom, or a family, you must learn to test loyalty without announcing the test. Small withdrawals of favor, delays in granting assistance, opportunities for them to choose between their interest and your own. Watch their choices. See how quickly their commitment evaporates when the scale tips against you. The most skilled leaders do not rely on loyalty alone. They bind it with incentives. They make it so costly to abandon them that even the thought becomes dangerous. This is why successful rulers entwine their allies' fortunes with their own. Why generals ensure their soldiers are paid from the same treasury. Why kings marry daughters to rivals. It is not sentiment, it is strategy. Mutual loyalty, when it appears, is not a miracle. It is a balance of fear, reward, and necessity. Remove any one of those, and the illusion dissolves. Do you know the danger of forgetting this truth? It is not simply betrayal, it is shock. Shock leaves you unprepared. You will not guard against what you cannot imagine. And the man who believes loyalty is eternal is the man who leaves his flank exposed. So here is the reality: do not mourn when loyalty fails. Expect it, plan for it. Assume that every alliance will end the moment its purpose is fulfilled, or the moment it ceases to be profitable. Those who survive the longest in the great game are not those who inspire undying loyalty, but those who know how to replace it before it disappears. And yet, there is one tool sharper than loyalty for ensuring survival. A weapon that allows you to guard yourself without closing the gates entirely. It is called controlled mistrust, and it will be our next subject. Controlled mistrust as armor. Trust is a door. The moment you open it, someone is already calculating how far they can step inside. You cannot survive in the realm of power by sealing every door. Paranoia isolates you and breeds enemies. You also cannot survive by throwing them wide open. The solution is not blind trust, nor complete suspicion. It is controlled mistrust. Controlled mistrust is the art of allowing closeness without surrendering the means to defend yourself. It is the habit of letting people believe they have earned your confidence, while never giving them enough to destroy you. Do you think this sounds cold? Then ask yourself, how many times have you been hurt by someone you believed incapable of harming you? How often has the knife been in the hand you shook every morning? Look to the court of Philip II of Spain. His reign was filled with advisors, generals, and nobles, each believing they had the king's full ear. But Philip divided information like a miser divides gold. No one saw the whole picture. He listened to all, trusted parts of many, but relied fully on none. His mistrust was measured, not paranoid. It was deliberate enough to prevent conspiracies, yet subtle enough to keep cooperation alive. The unwise mistake mistrust for hostility. In truth, it is armor. It does not have to be visible, only effective. Psychology teaches us that people act differently when they believe they are not fully trusted. Some become cautious, guarding their words. Others overcompensate, offering more proof of loyalty than they would have given otherwise. Both behaviors serve you. When you practice controlled mistrust, you do not accuse, you do not confront, you simply limit access, slowly, invisibly, so that your security is never in the hands of a single person. Consider the Borgias. Cesare Borgia rewarded his captains with land and gold, but never allowed any one of them to command all his forces. A captain could betray a battle, perhaps even a city, but never the whole campaign. This was not a lack of confidence, it was an understanding that trust without limits is an invitation to catastrophe. Ask yourself, who in your life holds too much of your fate in their hands? Who could harm you simply by withdrawing their support or revealing what they know? If you can name them, you have already given them more power than is safe. The art lies in recalibrating without awakening suspicion. If you suddenly strip someone of all responsibility or access, they will see the change and act against you. Instead, shift slowly. Introduce layers. Create processes that involve more people, more checkpoints. Make it appear as efficiency, not doubt. Controlled mistrust thrives in subtlety. One of the most effective techniques is the deliberate dispersal of truth. Give each person part of the story, but never the whole. Let them feel essential, but ensure they cannot act alone to your detriment. This is how intelligence agencies operate. Field agents rarely know the full mission. They know enough to play their part, but not enough to betray the whole structure. Another method creates small, harmless tests. Offer someone the chance to act against your interest in a way that cannot truly damage you. See if they take it. If they do, you have your answer. If they do not, you have a measure of their restraint. And remember, mistrust does not mean hostility. You may still smile, still share meals, still offer praise. The difference is that your smile is backed by caution, and your praise is never paired with complete dependence. Why is this balance so vital? Because power is maintained not by the loyalty you inspire, but by the control you retain. Too much trust makes you an open target. Too much suspicion makes you an isolated one. The ruler, the commander, the strategist, they all walk the same narrow path, close enough to command cooperation, distant enough to prevent overthrow. And here is the paradox. You will often be most loved when you are most cautious. People respect the leader who is careful, who does not hand over their fate like a child passing a toy. They may never say it, but deep down, they trust those who do not trust too easily. So, practice mistrust, not as an act of fear, but as an act of discipline. Let every relationship be a door you open only as far as necessary, never wide enough for someone to drag you out. Because betrayal does not require an enemy, it only requires an opportunity. And in our next lesson, we will explore the one moment where you must not only guard against betrayal, but become the betrayer yourself. Weaponizing betrayal. Betrayal is spoken of as a sin. It is whispered about as a stain on one's honor. But in the world of power, it is a tool, a blade you keep sheathed until the moment its strike will save you. You may believe that betrayal is always an act of malice. It is not. Sometimes it is an act of survival. Sometimes it is the only move left when every other door is closing. Ask yourself, if you know someone will eventually turn against you, would you wait for their knife, or would you place yours first? History rewards those who betray with precision. Look at the rise of Octavian, later Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He allied with Mark Antony to crush their common enemies, presenting themselves as brothers in arms. But when Antony's ambitions and alliance with Cleopatra threatened his own position, Octavian acted. He betrayed their pact, turned Rome against Antony, and emerged sole ruler of the empire. Was it treachery, or was it the inevitable move of a man unwilling to share power with someone already plotting his eclipse? In this game, the order of the strike matters. The one who hesitates becomes the victim of the one who does not. Psychology explains this cold arithmetic. Humans have a bias toward reciprocity. We repay kindness with kindness, betrayal with betrayal. But here lies the trap. If you wait to betray until after you've been betrayed, you are already too late. The advantage lies in acting before your opponent expects it, when they are still exposed and unprepared. That is why the most dangerous betrayal is the preventive one. It is not born out of rage or even revenge. It is calculated, timed, and necessary. Consider the case of Francesco Sforza, Duke of Milan. He served loyally under various lords until the moment came when remaining loyal meant being crushed under their enemies. Each time, he switched sides, not in a panic, but in anticipation of the inevitable. His betrayals were never reckless. They were the price of survival. And survival, in his eyes, was the highest form of loyalty to himself. The weak recoil at this logic. They ask, but what if I'm wrong? What if they would never have turned against me? That is the luxury of those without enemies. For those who play among rivals, the cost of hesitation is greater than the cost of a mistaken betrayal. Still, this weapon must be wielded with precision. Betray too often, and your reputation will precede you. No one will trust you enough to form the alliances you need. Betray too rarely, and you will hesitate when the moment calls for decisive action. So how do you use betrayal without destroying yourself? First, make it justifiable. Never betray without a narrative that paints your act as necessary, even noble. Octavian framed Antony as a traitor to Rome before striking him down. In doing so, he betrayed without wearing the face of a betrayer. Second, betray cleanly. Leave no lingering threads for your enemy to pull. A messy betrayal invites retaliation. A swift one leaves no room for counterattack. Third, ensure the betrayal grants you a decisive gain. Betraying for a minor advantage is wasteful. It costs you more in trust than it returns in power. And finally, be prepared to offer the same hand in friendship the very next day. Power does not reward grudges, it rewards results. Today's enemy may be tomorrow's ally against a greater threat. You might recoil from this, imagining that such coldness strips life of meaning. But remember, betrayal is not the opposite of loyalty. It is its shadow. It exists because loyalty exists, and in the world of power, both serve the same master advantage. Do you think the great rulers of history survived by keeping their hands clean? No, they survived because they understood when the knife must be used and when it must be sheathed again. And here is the deepest truth. The world does not remember you for the promises you kept. It remembers you for the throne you held. So, if you must betray, do it as the masters did, without hesitation, without apology, and only when the gain is greater than the loss. Because in this game, the first betrayal is the last warning your enemy will ever give you. And now you know how to wield betrayal as a weapon. But knowing how to win is meaningless unless you also know how to keep what you have won. That is the next lesson. Power is never taken in the open. It is harvested in silence. The greatest control is the kind they cannot see. They believe they are acting freely, yet every choice serves your design. They trust you. They depend on you. And by the time they realize the truth, it is too late to break free. This is the essence of mastery. Not forcing obedience, but guiding it invisibly. Not shouting commands, but planting thoughts. Not ruling with chains, but with threads so fine they mistake them for freedom. Ask yourself, are you shaping the game, or are you merely a piece on the board? If you do not decide, someone else already has. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below. Which of these strategies would you dare to use? Subscribe for more lessons in power, deception, and survival. And share this video, because the more people think they understand the game, the easier it becomes for those who truly do to win it.